I've always believed in building something for myself, and that is exactly what I did when I started my catering business. What began as a modest food truck back in my college days gradually evolved into a full-service catering company, now employing over 50 people and servicing high-end events all across the greater Chicago area. I've worked hard to get here, sleepless nights, sacrifices, and relentless determination. It took me nearly a decade, but I've built something I'm proud of. This background is important to understand what happened last weekend at my younger brother Mark's wedding, which turned into an absolute disaster. To give some context, I haven't been on speaking terms with my family for nearly 6 years. My mom passed away when I was 14, and my dad remarried within a year to Jenny, my now stepmother. Jenny made it clear from day one that she wanted no reminder of my mother. My father, eager to move on, allowed her to push my mother's memory out of our lives, which created a lot of tension between us. My younger brother Mark, who was only 10 at the time, became very close to Jenny, but I struggled to accept her sudden, controlling presence in our home. The distance between my father and me started then. The real breaking point came during my college years. While I was juggling multiple part-time jobs to pay for school, my father refused to offer me any financial help, claiming I needed to learn responsibility. Meanwhile, he was fully funding Mark's education at an expensive private university. The difference in how we were treated was impossible to ignore. Jenny, who had a condescending attitude toward me, never missed an opportunity to belittle my efforts. While I was trying to build my catering business, she often referred to it as playing with a food truck while praising Mark's real career in finance. After college, I rarely contacted them. I would show up for holidays, but that was about it. The final straw came 6 years ago when I learned that my father and Jenny had sold our childhood home without informing me. I only found out after they had moved into a new place, and by then, all of my mother's remaining belongings, things I had wanted to keep, were gone. When I confronted my father about this, he told me I was being overly emotional and needed to move on with my life. That was the moment I decided to go no contact. Fast forward to last month, I unexpectedly received a formal invitation to Mark's wedding. Along with the invite was a handwritten note from him, saying that he missed me and wanted to repair our relationship. After a lot of thought, I decided to give it a chance. Despite our family history, I figured it was worth attending. I even offered to provide the catering for the wedding at a significant discount as a gesture of goodwill, but Mark politely declined, saying they had already booked another company. I was a little hurt, but I shrugged it off. The wedding was held at a beautiful venue in Lake Forest, and I arrived cautiously optimistic. Mark seemed genuinely happy to see me, which was a relief, but Jenny's attitude hadn't changed. The moment she saw me, she made snide comments about my appearance and my catering business. I brushed it off and tried to enjoy the ceremony, which was undeniably beautiful. However, the family seating arrangement was telling. I was placed at a table far from my immediate family, alongside distant cousins I barely knew, which felt like a subtle reminder that I was still an outsider. Things took a nosedive during the reception. My father, clearly drunk, approached my table and started berating me out of nowhere. He accused me of showing up uninvited, despite the formal invitation I had in my pocket, and loudly claimed I was an embarrassment to the family. He said my presence was ruining Mark's big day, and before I could even respond, Jenny chimed in, asking with thinly veiled sarcasm how much I was earning playing restaurant owner these days. She even commented on my suit, implying I couldn't afford something as nice as what I was wearing. The sheer audacity of it was unbelievable. Instead of saying anything or reacting at all, I decided to leave quietly. I knew there was no point in engaging with them, especially with my father being drunk and Jenny clearly enjoying the opportunity to take jabs at me. I was walking toward my car when something caught my eye: the catering staff setting up for the main course. I recognized several of them immediately. These were people who worked for me. That's when it hit me: the catering company my business partner had hired for the wedding had recently been acquired by my company. The former owner had stayed on as a manager, so I hadn't been directly involved in the planning. But legally, the company and this event were now under my control. I called my operations manager just to confirm what I was already suspecting. Sure enough, this was our event. I thought back to what my father had said, how I was an embarrassment, how I was ruining the wedding just by being there. And that's when I made a decision. If my presence was so offensive to them, then surely they wouldn't want my company catering their event either. I instructed my staff to pack everything up and leave immediately. Within 15 minutes, 25 of my employees had loaded all the food, equipment, and supplies back into our trucks and were on their way out. Chaos erupted shortly after. With 300 guests left without their main course or dessert, people started to realize something was seriously wrong. My father tried to intervene, but there was nothing he could do. The contract they signed with the previous owner of the catering company included a clause that allowed us to terminate service if there was any hostile or discriminatory behavior toward our staff or ownership, and that's exactly what had happened. I left my business card with the venue manager and told her to have my father contact my lawyer if there were any disputes over payment. The fallout was immediate. By the next morning, my phone was blowing up with messages from family members accusing me of being selfish and petty. Mark sent me a long text saying I had ruined his wedding and proved Jenny right about me all along. My father, unsurprisingly, threatened to sue me for breach of contract. I forwarded all of their communications to my lawyer and blocked their numbers. A couple of hours later, I started hearing from some guests who had attended the wedding. Surprisingly, several of them were on my side. They had witnessed the way my father and Jenny had treated me and said they were appalled by their behavior. One of Mark's friends, who had seen my catering company's work before, even reached out to apologize for how things had played out and said he was impressed with how quickly and professionally my team handled the situation. This support was unexpected, but it reminded me that not everyone in the family was blind to what had really happened. As the days passed, I found out that Mark's wedding had made the rounds in social circles, particularly how it ended. Apparently, word had spread among Mark's colleagues and friends about the drama that unfolded, and it wasn't long before Jenny's carefully curated image started to crack. Some mutual acquaintances even mentioned that Jenny had tried to downplay the whole incident, blaming me entirely for ruining the reception. However, the truth was already out, and no one was buying her version of events. The damage had been done. I've been thinking about everything that's happened, and honestly, I don't feel guilty. I didn't crash their wedding or make a scene. I was invited and treated with utter disrespect. They chose to humiliate me, and I exercised my legal right to terminate a service. It was nothing personal, just business. They didn't want me there, so they didn't get my services either. Simple as that. Still, I can't shake the feeling that I've somehow been drawn into a family drama that I had long hoped to leave behind. Now, I'm left wondering if I handled it the right way. Was it too much? Or did they deserve the outcome they got for treating me the way they did? Either way, the situation has been weighing on me, so I'm turning to Reddit for some perspective. I to hear, or was I justified in my actions? Update 1. Thank you all for the overwhelming support. Honestly, I didn't expect this story to blow up the way it has, but I'm grateful for the outpouring of kind words and thoughtful responses. The amount of comments and messages I've received has been staggering, and while I've tried to respond to as many as possible, it's been overwhelming. I truly appreciate everyone's feedback, and many of your perspectives have given me new angles to consider in this whole ordeal. A lot of people have asked about the legal side of things and whether or not my father and Jenny are really planning to take action against me. The short answer, yes, they've threatened to sue, just as I suspected. Here's what has happened since my original post. Right after the wedding fiasco, I contacted my lawyer to get ahead of any potential legal trouble. We went over the contract between my catering company and the previous owner of the business, which was signed by either Mark or his wedding planner. The good news is that the contract is rock solid. It contains a clause that allows us to terminate services in cases where there's any hostile or discriminatory behavior directed at our staff or ownership. That clause was specifically added for situations like this, where things could get out of hand. To make sure we were fully prepared, I reached out to the venue manager, who confirmed that their security cameras had captured everything. The footage clearly shows my father approaching me, and while the audio wasn't perfect, it picked up enough to verify that he was berating me. Jenny's snide remarks were also caught on camera, making it clear that their behavior was hostile enough to justify the decision to stop catering the event. With this evidence in hand, I felt confident that my legal standing was solid. A few days after the wedding, my lawyer sent a formal letter to my father's attorney, explaining the situation. We laid out the details, emphasizing that the contract allowed us to terminate services due to their hostile behavior. We even mentioned the video evidence and made it clear that we were more than willing to provide it if necessary. At first, I thought that would be the end of it. But, of course, I underestimated how stubborn and vengeful Jenny could be. Yesterday, my father's lawyer sent a response demanding a full refund for the catering. They also threatened to sue for damages, claiming that by pulling the catering, I had ruined the wedding and caused irreparable harm. They were seeking compensation not only for the catering but also for the disruption it caused to the entire event. Naturally, I wasn't about to cave into their demands. I wasn't going to pay them anything, especially since they were the ones who had created this mess in the first place. After discussing things with my lawyer, we decided to offer a counterproposal. We're willing to refund 50% of the deposit, but only under 2 conditions. First, they have to sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA, which means they can't talk about this situation publicly or leave negative reviews online. Second, they have to sign a release of claims, which would prevent them from pursuing any further legal action against me or my company. We've sent the offer, and now we're just waiting for their response. Despite all this legal wrangling, Jenny has already tried to cause problems. The venue manager called me a few days ago to let me know that Jenny had been attempting to post negative reviews about my catering company online. In her reviews, she claimed that we had sabotaged the wedding and blown things out of proportion to make the family look bad. Thankfully, the venue manager was able to block her attempts, but it's still frustrating to deal with. My legal team is keeping a close eye on the situation, and if Jenny continues to spread false information, we'll treat it as defamation and escalate accordingly. Interestingly enough, the chaos of the wedding has led to some unexpected positives for my business. Several wedding guests have since reached out to compliment how my staff handled the situation and even expressed interest in hiring us for their own events. Some of them told me they were impressed by how quickly and professionally my team packed up and left. It's strange to think that a disaster like this could lead to new business opportunities, but that seems to be the silver lining in all this. As for my brother, Mark, he still hasn't contacted me directly, but he did send a message through one of our mutual cousins. In the message, Mark admitted that he felt guilty for not standing up for me during the wedding. He said that he didn't want to cause problems with our father and Jenny, which is why he stayed silent when things got ugly. He apologized and asked if we could meet to talk things over. I have mixed feelings about this. Part of me wants to give him a chance to explain, but another part of me feels like it's too late for that. For now, I'm going to hold off on any meetings until the legal situation is fully resolved. On a personal level, I've been reflecting a lot on everything that's happened. In some ways, I feel vindicated for standing up for myself. My family had treated me like an outsider for years, and I finally drew a line in the sand. Legally and professionally, I know I made the right decisions. But emotionally, this whole situation has been draining. It's hard not to feel a sense of loss, even though I've been estranged from my father and Jenny for years. Mark's wedding was supposed to be a celebration, and instead, it's become a legal battle and a source of family drama that I never wanted. The weight of it all is starting to sink in. I'm left wondering what the long-term consequences will be for my relationships with the rest of my family. Will things ever get back to normal? Can I ever repair my relationship with Mark, or is the damage too deep? I don't have answers to those questions yet, and it's going to take some time to figure it all out. For now, I'm focused on seeing how my father and Jenny respond to our offer. If they agree to the NDA and the release of claims, maybe we can all move on from this mess. If they refuse and decide to push forward with legal action, I'm prepared to defend myself and my company. No matter what happens, I'll make sure to update you all. Again, thank you for all your support and encouragement. It means a lot to me, especially during this chaotic and stressful time. Update 2. Since my last update, things have only gotten messier, but at least the legal side is now behind me. Before diving into that, let me backtrack a little to fill you in on something I recently learned. One of my business associates, who had a working relationship with the wedding planner hired by Mark and Jenny, gave me some additional insights into what went down before the wedding. Apparently, the chaos didn't just start with my arrival. It had been brewing for weeks. According to my associate, Jenny had been a nightmare to deal with from the beginning. She insisted on making several last-minute changes to the flower arrangements, despite having already signed off on them. Not only that, but she went back and forth with the event planner over almost every detail. The wedding cake design was altered at least 3 times because Jenny couldn't make up her mind, and she even demanded a complete overhaul of the seating arrangement just days before the event. The event planner had to rearrange seating for over 300 guests more than once, which isn't just inconvenient, it's costly. On top of that, there was some serious tension between Jenny and the venue staff. Jenny apparently made several condescending remarks about their level of professionalism, complaining that they weren't up to the standard she expected for such an upscale wedding. This was ironic, considering the staff were some of the best in the business, and the venue was known for its top-notch service. Jenny also tried to get the band to play a different setlist at the last minute, even though Mark and his fiancée had personally chosen all the songs months in advance. It was one of those classic situations where Jenny had her hands in everything, making the planning process a nightmare for everyone involved. My associate told me that there were some moments leading up to the wedding where it looked like the event planner was on the verge of quitting because of Jenny's constant meddling and impossible demands. But, being the professional she is, the planner stuck it out, despite the emotional toll Jenny's behavior was taking on the entire team. When my associate told me this, I couldn't help but feel a little vindicated. The stress and confusion I'd felt at the wedding reception were clearly just the tip of the iceberg compared to what the vendors had been dealing with in the weeks leading up to it. Now, back to the legal matters. Yesterday, my father's lawyer finally contacted us, and they've agreed to accept our settlement offer. After what I assume was a long discussion between my father, Jenny, and their legal team, they decided to take the partial refund and sign the non-disclosure agreement, NDA. This morning, they signed all the necessary documents, and we processed the refund 50% of their deposit, minus the costs already incurred for the food, staff, and travel. With that, the legal dispute has been resolved. The lawyer's letter was formal, and they didn't bother to include any sort of apology or acknowledgement of what really happened, but I wasn't expecting one. The important thing is that they agreed to the settlement, and I won't have to worry about any further legal repercussions from them. However, while the legal matter may be over, the personal fallout is still ongoing, and it's only getting worse. One of the more disturbing developments is that Jenny has been actively trying to undermine my business since the wedding. She's been calling several of my employees, trying to fish for information about how my company operates. Thankfully, my staff are loyal and know better than to engage with her, especially considering the circumstances. We've instructed all employees to direct any and all communications from my family straight to our legal department. But it doesn't stop there. Jenny has also been reaching out to some of my business partners on LinkedIn, spreading false claims about my character and accusing me of ruining her son's wedding on purpose. It's one thing to be angry, but it's another to try to sabotage someone's livelihood. Jenny crossed a major line with these attempts to tarnish my reputation. As soon as we became aware of what she was doing, our lawyer sent her a cease and desist letter. We're taking this seriously because, at this point, her actions are bordering on defamation. My legal team is ready to escalate if necessary, but I'm hoping the cease and desist will be enough to make her back off. Still, I wouldn't put it past Jenny to keep pushing, given her history of crossing boundaries. But perhaps the most surprising development came from my brother, Mark. I hadn't expected much from him after the wedding, but it seems the fallout from the incident has hit his own marriage as well. From what I've gathered through mutual acquaintances and a few cousins, Mark and his new wife have already had their first major fight over what happened at the wedding. Apparently, she was horrified by the way our father and Jenny treated me, and she confronted Mark about it after the wedding. She told Mark in no uncertain terms that he should have stood up for me, and that allowing his father and stepmother to humiliate me was unacceptable. According to what I've heard, she feels strongly that Mark needs to grow a spine and stand up to our father and Jenny. This led to a significant argument between them, to the point where they postponed their honeymoon to work through some of these issues. I don't know much more than that, but it's clear that my brother is being forced to face the reality of the situation, and that includes re-examining his relationship with our father and Jenny. I can't help but feel a strange mix of emotions about this. On one hand, it's a relief to know that someone else saw what happened for what it truly was. It's validating to hear that Mark's wife was just as appalled as I was by our father's and Jenny's behavior. But on the other hand, I feel bad for Mark. He's in a tough spot, and while I'm angry with him for not standing up for me, I know he's been under a lot of pressure from our family for years. It's not an excuse, but it's still a difficult position to be in, especially now that he's newly married and trying to navigate this mess. As for me, I'm focusing on moving forward. With the legal matters behind me and Jenny's attempts to sabotage my business being handled by my legal team, I'm starting to feel a sense of closure. I'm not sure what the future holds for my relationship with Mark or the rest of the family, but I'm taking things one day at a time. For now, I'm just grateful for the support I've received from my staff, my business partners, and even some family members who've reached out in private to offer their encouragement. I'll keep you posted if anything else happens, but for now, I'm hopeful that this chapter is coming to a close. Thanks again for all the support. Update 3. Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I want to start by expressing my gratitude for all the support, comments, and messages I've received since I first shared my story. The past week has been truly transformative, and I want to share how things have evolved and the unexpected turns my life has taken since my last update. Yesterday, I met with Mark for coffee. It was a kind of emotional meetup that I wasn't entirely sure I was ready for, but I felt it was necessary. The conversation was a long time coming, and I think we both knew it. Mark broke down and apologized for years of enabling Jenny's behavior and our father's favoritism. He was visibly shaken, and I could see how much he was carrying on his shoulders. I always knew Mark loved me, but hearing him admit that he had been complicit in allowing Jenny to dictate our family dynamics was a huge step. Mark revealed that Jenny had been controlling their family dynamics through financial manipulation for years. He disclosed that she convinced our father to put most of their assets in her name, which included partial ownership of Mark's condo. Mark had no idea this was happening, and he felt blindsided. It explained a lot about the tension between them. He was frustrated that he had been living under this facade, believing he had some control over his life when, in reality, Jenny was orchestrating everything. Now that he's aware of it, he's working with a financial advisor to regain his independence. I was proud of him for taking this step. It showed he was ready to make changes in his life. During our coffee meeting, Mark also told me about a breakthrough with his wife. She contacted me privately later that day to share some good news. They are going to couples counseling. It seems Mark is finally finding his voice and standing up to Jenny in a way he never did before. They are actively looking for a new condo, one that will be solely in their names, not tied to Jenny in any way. This was a huge relief to hear. It sounds like they're setting boundaries and taking back control over their lives, which is a journey I hope continues for both of them. Additionally, Mark's wife mentioned that they're planning a small vow renewal ceremony in a few months. This ceremony will have different in-laws seated at the family table, meaning they're taking active steps to redefine what family looks like for them. Hearing this warmed my heart. It seems they are committed to building a new family narrative that doesn't include the toxicity that Jenny and my father have brought into our lives. As for Jenny and my father, they've surprisingly gone quiet since signing the NDA. Through some mutual acquaintances, I've learned that they are facing social consequences in their country club circle. Apparently, they had been telling a very different version of our family story to their friends, painting me as the villain. Now, it seems that people are starting to question their narrative, and the consequences of their actions are catching up to them. It's strange to think that the social standing they valued so much is now in jeopardy because of their own behavior. This entire experience has taught me a lot about the importance of setting boundaries with toxic family members. Sometimes the hardest decisions, like maintaining those boundaries or standing up for your principles, are the right ones, even when they cause short-term chaos. I've come to realize that standing firm in my truth, despite the backlash, has led to unexpected growth and healing in other relationships. I'm grateful for the community's support. Many of you have reached out to share your own experiences with toxic family dynamics, and it's comforting to know I'm not alone in this. I hope my story can help others facing similar situations. I've realized that life is too short for toxic relationships, but it's never too late for genuine reconciliation with those who are truly sorry. Looking ahead, I plan to maintain my boundaries with Jenny and my father. They've shown me who they truly are, and I have no desire to re-enter that dynamic. However, I'm cautiously optimistic about rebuilding relationships with Mark and other family members who are willing to interact respectfully. I think there's a chance for us to reconnect, especially since Mark is now aware of the need for healthier boundaries. As for my business, things are going better than I could have anticipated. In the wake of the wedding incident, I received several inquiries from potential clients who were impressed with how my staff handled the situation. They appreciated the professionalism we maintained despite the chaos. Our reputation has actually strengthened in the local community, and we're experiencing a surge in bookings as a result. It feels rewarding to know that my hard work over the years is paying off and that I'm being recognized for the dedication I've put into my company. I also took the time to meet with my employees to discuss the incident. I wanted to ensure they felt supported and acknowledged for their professionalism during a challenging event. The feedback from them was heartwarming. Many expressed their appreciation for the strong company culture we've built together, which made me feel proud as a leader. It reinforced my belief in the importance of treating employees well and fostering a positive workplace environment. To those who asked about future family events, I'll continue to maintain my boundaries with Jenny and my father. But I'm excited to explore the possibility of re-establishing connections with Mark and other family members ready to interact respectfully. It's a fine line to walk, but I'm hopeful. Life is too short for toxic relationships, and I want to focus on the positive connections that bring joy and support into my life. Thank you all for your unwavering support, awards, and kind messages. They've meant more to me than you know. I might not post updates moving forward, but I wanted to share this final update to let you know how things have changed for the better. I hope you all take care and remember that it's okay to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard. You never know how it might inspire others to do the same.